Hello and welcome to another video from the only source of information that you need to not only survive the current apocalypse, but actually enjoy it. And today is my first TV show in 3 weeks because I just didn't feel like doing them before. You know, I guess, let's see, is anybody here? 5, 25, 9 people here, got 2 thumbs up already and ain't said nothing yet. But yeah, I had I guess there's something that goes wrong with me every year in the winter, and I can't think straight. I get really like just emotionally drained, and so I decided that I would just not do another one of these until I felt better. Well, I've actually been feeling better for a few days, and oh, wait a second. Somebody say some chats over in the chat thing. I got to make sure this is working. I can't just sit here and talk for an hour unless somebody says hello or something. Just on your keyboard. You want to say hello?
Hey.
Welcome over by the door. Let me see. Over here.
Can they see me?
I hope they can see. If you can see her, say hello.
Hello.
Rachel says hello. So all you got to do is say hello back. Well, it's my subscribers, 13 people.
Wow.
Let me see. Am I doing something wrong? I sure wish that Ala Toledo would. All right. Oh, okay. I had to click a special button. All right. A whole bunch of people said hello. Oh, all right. All right. Hey, Carlos says somebody recognized your picture. I don't know if is Carlos here? Yeah. Hey, Carlos, did you see where I put that thingamajig picture for my thumbnail? They give you an option when you first sign on to take a thumbnail, and it automatically kicks a picture. But then it says you can put a custom thumbnail, so I'll put your picture up there. Yeah, I don't know what they were doing, but Ricardo, Bob, and Carlos were messing around with pictures and my picture and a computer program, and Carlos sent me that. So anyways. I think I may have messed up. I just made myself a cup of coffee, but it tastes surprisingly like tea with creamer in it. I think I took my wife's coffee. I think my wife wasn't drinking coffee. Anyway, let's see here. Okay, we're going to go all the way to the top. Marie says hello. Carla says hello. Shannon says greetings from Hungary. Angela says I'm here. FC Fouts. Aha, I have to look up who that is one of these days. Prune picker. Somebody else. Got a few people. Charles Nichols, I saw the green light next to your Skype thing, and I almost sent you a message to tell you I was going to do this. All right, Jen E, Shannon, JC, Shalom. Prune picker again, hello. Charles Nichols, hi. Okay, everybody's saying hello back and forth to each other, like at the end of the Waltons when they're saying goodnight. Oh, I'm just going to go through these. Y'all can read these from your end. I'm going to go see if anybody on there wants to reveal any of the secrets of the universe or ask me questions about it. Never got the updates. Well, I just 30 minutes ago decided to do this. I wasn't going to do it. I've got this feeling it's like, okay, I want to keep the channel going, but it seems like everything I do makes the channel less and less. My subscribers keep going up, but all the while, the number of people watching these videos goes down, down, down. And I guess as long as I'm just doing these live streams, that's okay, because they're not anything I'm proud of. I keep telling myself I'm going to take these down, and then Carlos and his crew are always telling me to leave them up here. So I do. But there's going to come a day when I'm going to make a special folder that just says sustenance and covering talking with no real theme, and put all of these live streams in there. All right, Brewlock and Jaboom Blue. Food, water, music. Oh, yeah. Okay, well, anyways, that's it. Nobody has said anything about tell me all the secrets of the universe, but I'm going to go ahead and do that anyway, because I had kind of today a little practice run with this, we Skyped. I told everybody I've got Skype, and if you want to talk to me personally, just send me your Skype name, and we'll all get together. And 4 of us got together today. We're kind of testing out the system because I want to do an interview with several expats that are subscribed to the channel to ask them about why they left the country and how they feel now that they have left the country and what they've had to go through in that process. And so I will do that hopefully in the next couple of weeks. And that would include Shannon, who's here, and Ala Toledo, who's probably here, and a couple of other people I've met that I haven't talked to about it yet. But anyway, today, when is a bad time and a good time to Skype? Well, see, you know what? This is from Brewlock. What we do is somebody will say, hey, can I talk to you? And I'll say, is it something you want private, or can you talk to a bunch of people? And if they say a bunch of people, then I'll send messages out to everybody that I promised to talk to. And then if however they respond, we do that. But there's no special time to do this, especially with me. I just fall asleep in this chair sometimes. And so I don't know what my sleep schedule is like. And that's really all I got is sleep schedule and doctor's appointments. But we'll go ahead and get into tonight's lesson, which is going to be about time. Now, if you're a regular subscriber, I hope you haven't just watched all the videos about picking up chicken eggs, but have a little bit of an understanding of what I teach about the Bible. The whole Bible, from beginning to end, it's not about how a rule book for how to get to heaven. It's simply a written record of the war between God's kingdom and Satan's empire, and a whole lot of that involves the celestial objects in our universe, but primarily in our solar system. And so there are verses that seem to suggest as above, so below. In other words, when you read about kings fighting one another, in general, that's about the kings in the sky. In the ancient past, the planets were gods and the constellations were gods. And so the wars that are depicted in mythology, which is basically all of the mythologies of all countries around the world, oftentimes are based on things that actually happened on the earth. And so a lot of times there are stories in the Bible that are very similar to things that have happened on the earth, but primarily based on the mythologies of all of the world's religions. And so when if you have not seen any of my videos about changes in our solar system, and this intrigues you, I highly recommend that you go back and watch some of those. But in any case, around the world, cultures as diverse as the Americas, Asia, Europe, the Middle East, all left stone carvings about the tracking of time. Every one of these cultures agreed in the ancient past that the earth had a 360-day year. Now, today, scientists acknowledge that these cultures existed and they had 360-day years, and their explanation is that people in the ancient past did not truly understand how the calendar worked. Now, here's the problem with that. If we go back to all of these ancient cultures, the months that they had were named by descriptions. In other words, the word that means very hot would be associated with the middle of summer. The word means very cold, middle of winter. That you'd have a month that was called harvest month. You'd have a month that was called planting month. So if we take into account that these people use these calendars for thousands of years to determine when to plant and when to harvest crops, they had to have been real calendars. They could not have been figurative calendars. If you're counting how many days to wait until you plant your seeds, and you're using an inaccurate calendar, it's not going to take long before you have global crop failure, because you can't just plant according to a fake calendar. You have to really understand the cycles of the earth. So anyway, in the Bible, God gave the Jews some laws. When they refused to go by natural law, the Ten Commandments, Moses broke the Ten Commandments. God gave them this unnatural, ritualistic law, which said that they had, if they wanted to engage in this law, the law which became the law of Moses, that they would have to do a whole bunch of seemingly arbitrary rituals throughout the year based on the calendar, and the information that God gave them would only work in a 360-day calendar. Now, a lot of Jews today, Messianics, people who believe they still have to go by this series of rituals, say that that's not a problem. In a 365-day year, we can do it because we've got leap years, and we could look at the cycles of the moon and get, dozens of church elders together to measure things and carefully calculate, and they can come up with when these rituals are to be performed. But that's not true. These guys every year argue, and that's why throughout the world, all of the Christian Jewish faiths argue about dates for things such as Easter. And so that's based on the fact that you cannot track time with our current solar system the way it works. But at one time you could. So we're going to go ahead and discuss a series of verses that come up every now and then, and how they can actually be interpreted, because they're nothing about what people think they're about. I think it's Elijah. No, Ezekiel. In one part of the Bible, Ezekiel is brought to the temple, and a hole is bored through the wall, and he sticks his head in there, and he can see some things going on that are very strange. And so churches around the world have got their interpretation of what Ezekiel saw, because everybody recognizes that the things he saw were prophetic. And so they know that it wasn't something that Ezekiel was experiencing then, but it was something that would happen in the future. Maybe in Ezekiel's future, maybe in our future, maybe in the distant future that we have not experienced yet. But everybody pretty much recognizes that this is prophetic. So Ezekiel looks in and he sees about 70 elders, 70 men. And there are several verses in the Bible where the number 70 is associated with the tracking of time. And so that has to be involved in this. But there are also verses in the Bible that would indicate that the 70 could be something else. When Noah's Ark came to rest on dry ground, in the ark was Moses and his 3 sons and their 4 wives. And they came out, and Shem had children, Ham had children, Japheth had children, and from all of those children came what was called the Table of Nations. The Table of Nations is a list of all the great-great-great-grandchildren of all of those people and where they settled and what nations they founded. And if you count them up, there were 70 nations. So that's another place where 70 is used. So it could be peoples, nations, or it could be something to do with time. But another verse says that when Ezekiel looked in, he saw women weeping over the god Tammuz. Now, Tammuz is the Tau. Supposedly, Tammuz was a deified version of Nimrod, what we would call Orion. Orion the hunter up in the sky, the constellation Orion, is based on this hunter god, Nimrod, Tammuz. But also in the sky is the Tammuz. And at the time, Tammuz, the constellation crux, it's just that's what it is. It's a cross that's in the sky, was over the equator, and it fell. So right now, Tammuz is gone. He's over the South Pole. The vast majority of people on this planet cannot see constellation crux. So that's what these women are. They're crying over the death of Tammuz, of that the cross. So another thing that he saw was about 25 men bowing to the east with their backs to the altar. Now, what this is kind of one of the things I've always known about this is that it had to have had something to do with the calculating of time. But I didn't know how. And a lot of people believe that what he saw was our present day Jerusalem. Because as many people know, Jerusalem was a Palestinian land. It was invaded by the Anglo-American World Empire in 1948. Those people were displaced. They were exterminated. They were put into basically concentration camps or internment camps, relocation camps. And that's why there's a big stink over there today, because a lot of the people that experienced that are still alive and they're still really mad. But they were allowed to keep their own version of a temple, which is on the same mound that the original Jewish temple was on thousands of years ago. So the teaching is of most churches that every day the Muslims come down and they bow towards the east. And so that's the fulfillment of that prophecy. And I thought, well, for years I just went along with that and never really looked into it. But I thought one day, this has to have something to do with time. So, and the time is always determined by the movement of the sun and the moon and the planets and the stars. It's like our universe to us is like a great big clock because of the rotation of the earth, the movement of the earth around the sun, the movement of the moon around the earth, but it simply doesn't work. Well, when it talks about 25 men, it uses a unique word, and that's about 25 men. In other words, it's the word 25, but it's different because it's not precise. It's not a precise number. About 25 men bowing. And the word that's used for east is actually the rising of the sun. And that's proper because throughout the Bible, in Hebrew, a lot of the verses about the east use this phrase, the rising of the sun. But in this particular instance, it says very clearly they are bowing to the east to the rising of the sun, because what it really says, they were bowing to the rising of the sun. They were bowing to the rising of the sun. Now, the Muslims that inhabit that area of the earth always bow towards Mecca. And Mecca is not east of Jerusalem. Mecca is south. Well, it's southeast. And so a lot of people say that that's still the fulfillment because it's not precisely south, it's southeast. So when the Bible says that they're bowing to the east, that's accurate. But remember, the Bible doesn't say they're bowing to the east. In the original language, it says they're bowing towards the rising of the sun. And the sun never rises in the direction of Mecca. Not even in the dead of winter. Never. These people never bow towards the rising of the sun. They're bowing towards Mecca. So we've got two clues here. One is that they're bowing in the wrong direction. And it's not precisely 25, but about 25 men. Okay? So in my head, knowing that this had to have something to do with the changing of time, because in that same area of the Bible, all these prophets are saying God is changing times and seasons, and somehow this vision that Elijah experienced is associated with God's changing times and seasons. So I thought, well, you know what? At one time, Mecca must have been east or towards the sun from the perspective of Jerusalem. So that's about the shifting of the Earth's axis. And I think for a long time I was telling that. I was telling people that. I'm like, these verses are not about bowing to Mecca being wrong. It's simply telling us that at one time Mecca was in a different part of the earth because of the shifting of the Earth's axis. But I got to thinking about that. There's a series of verses in the book of Revelation where it talks about the restoration of time. And it says that God's throne was surrounded by 24 men, and that those 24 men took off their crowns and gave them to God, or gave them to Jesus. What the word used there is corona, which is where we get our word crown, but it's also that's a descriptive noun for the light that comes around a planet or the moon during an eclipse. So this, once again, handing these crowns is a celestial event. And in this celestial event, we end up with 24 elders around the throne. Well, according to the law of Moses, the Jews had to keep 2 calendars, one for the northern hemisphere and one for the southern hemisphere. So they had the first month, second month, all the way to the 12th month. But when they got to the 6th month, they also had the next month would be the first month again. The Jews did not know why. They just knew they had to do it because that was the law. The law was they had to acknowledge 24 months a year. So 12 months that they lived by and 12 months that they didn't live by. No idea why they were doing it. They simply had to do it. And that's because when it's winter in the northern hemisphere, it is summer in the southern hemisphere. And that's, I think most people are familiar with that. And the exact opposite is true as well. When it's summer, the other half of the earth is experiencing winter. That's the cycle that our earth goes through because we're at an angle. As the earth is spinning, the angle that for the northern hemisphere will be away, like here's the sun over here. And then in the summer, the angle of the earth points towards the sun. So the people at the top of the earth get warmer when the earth is pointing that way. So you have 24 months. That's the restoration. If we go back, Elijah lived when they had 24 months. So when he saw about 24 elders, about 25 elders, he probably never even understood what that meant. He saw the vision, he wrote it down, he had no idea what he was writing. But we currently live under about 25 elders because I don't know exactly how long our months are. We have leap years because of the extra days that come in every now and then. Plus, we've got a 365 day, not a 360 day. Our lunar cycles are, I think, 29 and a half. So nothing works in our solar system anymore. We end up with about 12 months and 5 days or something like that every year. And so every now and then you have to fix those months. And so when Elijah saw about 25 men bowing with their backs to the altar and they're facing the rising of the sun, if you look up in the sky during the day, a lot of times you'll see the moon up there, and one side of the moon is lit, and that's the side facing the sun. The 25 or about 25 months that Elijah saw was a prophecy about the changing of time from a 24-month earth cycle to about a 25-month earth cycle. All of those verses in there are not about Muslims inhabiting the promised land. They're about changes in our solar system, about the sun and earth and moon going out of conjunction. And if we go back in time and look, cultures around the earth recorded that this happened. And so when we look at the book of Revelation and it talks about a restoration of our solar system where the 24 elders are returned, that's when we go back to 360-day years with 12 equal 30-day months. I got through that. Okay. Let me see if, wait a second. We've got stuff going on here. Can I see? Yeah, I don't know how to. Okay, somebody sent me something and it's probably not inappropriate. Probably somebody said something about the Jews worship at the temple or something. If you use the word Jew on here, it ain't gonna let you leave that comment. Which is a good thing. Jewish people are, they have the right to be left alone. That's another thing that I was talking to our group today about is that we've got in this world what's called the Freemasons, and everybody thinks the Freemasons are evil. Well, if you look, the people that you know who are Freemasons, they're first degree Freemasons, second degree, third degree, all the way up to 32nd or 33 degrees. You'll never meet anybody that's above that. And supposedly no one is above it. But whenever world leaders meet and they're wearing their little Freemason costumes, they'll have the number of their degree. And I've seen a picture recently, and I think it was like 77 on George Bush Sr.'s hat. You'll never meet somebody who's above 33. And yet these world leaders are all like that. So Freemasons aren't necessarily evil. it's the hierarchy of the Freemasons, and it's the same thing with Jews. The Jews are not evil. They're just people like us. You know, they got involved in religion, or they were born in a certain area, country, family. But there's that hierarchy. These people are just decent human beings that are part of a religion, and then above that, those are the guys that you got to be scared of. And they are, in fact, Freemasons as well. So the problem isn't so much that they're Jews or that they're Freemasons, but that they're in the hierarchy. They're the guys that rule the world. Okay, let's see here if I can go through some of this and maybe answer some questions. Still not got Skype. So, oh, that's Rick Ballard. That's okay. It's not a big deal. I'm going to keep doing this. I don't want to do this. I really want to take about 2 years off from YouTube and just cut my grass. But I know people get scared, worried about me. So every now and then I'll do one of these. And I may start doing them every day, but chances are I'll do them once every 3 months or 3 weeks or something like that. But anyway, yeah, anybody out there that really wants to get in on our little group and talk, it seems to be working out okay. Everything functions. And I'd actually said that we would be using a program called Discord, but I don't, at this point, don't see how Discord is better than Skype. But we'll work through all that over time. Hey, my newest bestest friend on Facebook, Ernest, says, hello, brother. Hello, Ernest. I need to talk to him with my good buddy Carlos and Ricardo Bob. We're all in a kind of a circle. Wow, Chili Expat family. Okay, you know what? Send me, please, Chili Expat family. Send me just post a comment on this video after the live stream is over, so I can find you, because I may be wanting to do some interviews with you about leaving the country. Okay. Hey, new to your channel, very interested in the truths you are teaching here, both about the Bible and the application of survival. Thank you for spreading this information. Wow, that is really great. I'm really glad that I decided to do this, because I really wasn't going to do this. I woke up this morning and I said, I've got to do this. I've got to do this. I'm not doing that. And then I guess after talking to Carlos and Lara and Kitchcool and who was the other one, Shannon, I was like, I'm kind of enjoying this. Now, I will tell you some things about my health. Well, first we'll go through this list here, make sure I'm okay. I'm paying attention. And that's one of the people that primarily got me to do this today, because she sent me a thing asking if I was okay. I said yes, and she wrote back, and I said something, and she wrote back, and I'm like, okay, I'm glad I did that. Yes, I want to be in the know. Yeah, yeah. Angela is in Louisiana. Where am I located? I'm in Mississippi. I'm on the beach in Mississippi. So, I know it'd probably be like, from where you're at is like 3 hours, I think. And if you and your husband both know how to use a chainsaw, you should both come down and visit. I sent her that message today. All right, let's see here. Yeah, God knows who is who's. The 3/4 are going to be killed by God himself. I think that's the way that's going to work out. It may or may not work out, but I've said before that 1/3 of the earth is going to be killed, or 2/3 of the earth are going to be killed, and here's 3/4 of the earth are going to be killed. A lot of verses that seem to specify how many people are going to be killed at Armageddon. But once again, as above, so below, it seems to me that a lot of that is about changes in our solar system. If our whole solar system shifts, people who are in the northern hemisphere are going to seemingly watch 1/3 of the stars destroyed, or 3/4 of the stars. So however that works out, because those stars will be over the southern hemisphere, and we in the northern hemisphere don't get to see that. So that's probably the accurate fulfillment of it. How many people die at Armageddon, or how many people die on our way to Armageddon, I don't know. I'm kind of getting wishy-washy on that. I kind of would like to go back and take out everything I ever said about how many people were going to get killed, because I'm probably going to be wrong. Okay, Liz Fizz 420, thank you very much. She says Discord sucks. And you know, the time that I used it, I didn't like it. It didn't seem like it was doing as good a job as Skype. All right. Yeah, I'm waiting on Gonzales. That ain't far at all. Gonzales is like this side of Baton Rouge, right? Yeah, I used to go there to work every day. I had to go past there. There's a couple of car dealerships. I would go customize their cars for them. All right, I'm going to tell you about my health experience with the VA. I told everybody I was having all this trouble in the winter. I always do. I have about 4 months where I'm completely out. I can't do anything. I can't clean my house. I struggle to cook meals. I feel just like depressed. Not really like crybaby depressed, but when things happen to me in the real world, a lot of times I'll be like, get real mad. And I say, it's not a big deal. I'm good at that. I'm good at just brushing things off. But during that time, like when the winter comes and the sun is real low on the horizon, something will happen. It could be just anything. I get in an argument with somebody, and then I just go home and I cry and I can't get over it and I can't stop thinking about it. And so I'm not really depressed during that time of the year, but it doesn't take much to get me depressed. But anyway, I went to my doctor because one of my subscribers heard me talking about this during one of these live streams, and he said the VA gave him these therapeutic lights. Now I went online and I looked into getting some therapeutic lights, and they were about $250, but I think you could build them for almost nothing. You know, I think I could get away with maybe $150, have a nice therapeutic light to stand up right here and make me happy. But I thought if a VA is going to give me a free one, I'll just go there and get a free one. So I went to my doctor and I said, yeah, I think I need one of these therapeutic lights. Fortunately, he had been through this with his wife, so he believed in that stuff. And he said, moving from Ohio down to Florida cured his wife of her winter depression. It's called seasonal affective disorder. And so he believed in it. He said, but you have to go talk to a psychiatrist. You can't get that for me. The psychiatrist has to prescribe that. So I waited for a month to get a appointment with the psychiatrist. I went down there. The psychiatrist said, yeah, what's going on? How you doing? You know, really good lady. I like it. She's not a psychiatrist, so she's like a clinical consultant or something. And so I told her about this. I said, yeah, I got a friend in the VA, and he said that he got one of these therapeutic lights, and I just need to get a therapeutic light. If you want to ask me questions about just determine whether or not I really need a therapeutic light, you can, but I'm pretty sure that's what I need, because every year for about 4 months, I become emotionally just dead or empty. I don't feel like doing anything. I can't do any chores. I can't get anything done. I get sad when people say things to me. And she said, yeah, it sounds like you have seasonal affective disorder. I'm certain you do, but you have to get that light from your doctor. I said, my doctor sent me over here. She said, well, what I'll do is I'll put in my notes that I recommend this light, and if he can prescribe it for you, then you just tell him it's in the notes. But I don't think he can prescribe it. So anyway, it's before next year, before next winter, I'll get one of them things on my own with my own money. But something I've noticed is, like, I started feeling really good about 4 days ago. I went for a walk in the woods and a frog jumped in the water. You don't see frogs in the winter. So it's like the frogs know that winter is over. Well, today I went out there with my lawnmower and started pushing it, and I was feeling really good. And I noticed that all of my plum trees are loaded with flowers. The huckleberries are loaded with flowers. My blueberries have the little blooms on the end. So everything is coming back to life. It felt warm. The sky was kind of bright. I feel really good right now. And in fact, tomorrow I'll probably go out there in my yard and prune trees and push some more all day long. So I'm over my winter blues, but at the same time, I'm now 4 months behind on chores. So, don't expect any really good videos. I've got a few scripts written start to finish, and I could put those out, but at the same time, I've got to catch up on some of the stuff that's going on around here. Now, I did over the last few days. I worked on my lawnmowers and my chainsaws, and I've got And by next month, say 40 days from now, I should have at least 3 mowers running and 3 chainsaws, maybe 4 mowers and 4 chainsaws, because I'm trying to get everything ready in case somebody comes down. And I already know Carlos and Ricardo Bob are probably going to come down. And when they do, I'll have all the equipment we need to get to work. In fact, I'm going to go through and try to get started on all of this stuff before they get here. So that's why you won't be getting too many you won't be getting any videos from me until I get caught up around here. My house is caving into the swamp. You know, the back end of my house broke off, and now there's a big gaping hole in the roof. And every time it rains, my tool room gets full of water, and it's all rotting away. And I got to catch up. I've got to somehow patch that. And not that I really care, because it's like the house. It's going to take 15 years for the house to cave in, and I'll be dead in 15 years if Christ doesn't return. So. All right, brothers, this is this chat. I'm thinking we should try and send Hank natural health. No more natural health supplements. I've got so many people sending me stuff. And wait, let me get back up here before I start cutting people off. Oh, yeah, okay. There's people talking to one another. Yeah, I've actually got a couple of people who are sending me things to help with my health, really. And I've tried them. In fact, Carlos is one of them. He was like Ricardo Bob. He's the one that was suggesting the CBD oil. Unfortunately, it didn't help me, but I'm still using it anyway, just to make sure I'm not doing something wrong, or that maybe I'm not, that I am getting benefits or something. And the other one was Kratom. And I really got it for like 3 days. I slept really good, and I had really vivid dreams. And the lady that sent me that said, well, you're not supposed to. It'll mess your sleep up. Don't take it in the evening. I'm like, well, I enjoyed it. So, but at the same time, after I took it for about 3 days, I didn't see any benefits. I stopped for about a week. I didn't see anything change. And I started taking it again. I didn't see anything change. So I was going to buy some more, but there's a lot of things that can go wrong with Kratom. And I guess it's not anything significant. Some people say it is, but it's just, I don't want to waste resources or even just the time to make myself stop every day to take that stuff. So let's see here. My Pale Store was getting worried about me. Love you, Pale Store. All right. Okay. Hey, Kitch Cool's there. It's like 1 a.m. where he's at. Says nothing came up to say you're live. Sorry, I sent you a message on Skype. You should have turned your Skype on. Oh, Angela says, yeah, you know what? I should have, when I saw that Carlos was saying you should watch the Melchizedek series, I didn't think about it, but she's left so many comments on the Melchizedek series. It's fantastic. Yeah, and there you get Carlos said Jenna's sending him stuff. Yeah, that's true too. All right. Oh, yeah, with Ham's wife. Okay. Yeah, that's right. She said something about that today in a comment. Thomas Tucker. Wow, that's pretty cool. I didn't even send him anything. He never checks his Skype unless he's calling me. All right. Oh, by the way, I may have already mentioned this. Carlos, did you see the picture that I used for this live stream? All right. Okay, yeah, Metalhead says if you want one of them lights, you can build it for yourself very cheaply. In fact, that's what Ricardo Bob sent me. He was said to me, he wanted to send me the light. And I'm like, man, look, I've got a Home Depot right around the corner. I can drive over there for $1 worth of gas. But if you put all that junk in a box, you ain't going to send it here for $1. So I'm going to make my own light. Nobody needs to send me a light. All right, so let's see. I think I've gotten to the end. I didn't see anything really, really important to discuss, but I'm going to talk about something else that's part of the world scene that we're going through right now. Again, it's kind of related to what I just talked about with the sun and the moon and the earth going back in a conjunction. That's actually come up quite a bit, where it talks about there would come a day when the Muslims would take over the promised land away from God's chosen people, and this would be an abomination. And so a lot of people who profess to be Christians also profess that we need to do something about this Muslim problem. And one of the things that comes up is Sharia law. Now, we live under what's called draconian law currently, which is insanely evil. And I don't like it, but I'm used to it. And I think a lot of people are used to that. We're used to draconian law. So we like for people to tell us what clothes we have to wear. And we like people to tell us what we can eat and what we can smoke and what we can drink. Sharia law is the same thing. It's powerful people telling you what you can eat, what you can drink, what kind of clothes you can wear. It's basically the same thing, but their laws are different than our laws. They're just as goofy. Some would argue they're more goofy. But here's the deal. This whole Muslim problem that's come up is a fiction generated out of thin air. These people are Muslims. They live in a Muslim country. America bombs the country until they can't live there anymore. They run across the border into other lands, and they are a drain on resources. People don't think of them as a drain on resources when taxes are being used to buy trillions of dollars worth of bombs to drop on these people for no good reason. But then when they come over asking for $10 worth of food, suddenly they're a drain on resources. Well, if the elite want us to live under Sharia law, they don't have to bring Muslims into this country to do it. They just say, hey, you know what? We discovered that Sharia law cures hiccups. So from now on, everybody's under Sharia law. And people would go along with that. But that's not the way it's presented. These people are trying to make you think that we're being invaded by people of another culture, and they're going to change our culture. Now, something I've learned from experience in my life is that when people move into another area, they try not to change. They try to hold on to their culture. It's not really as bad as you think. During the 1970s, probably 1 million boat people were brought here from Vietnam. And to this day, there are people living in this country that speak Vietnamese that cannot speak English. They walk down the street wearing these straw hats. And so they really haven't assimilated. But I have never had a Vietnamese person come put one of them hats on my head and force me to speak Vietnamese. So the concern that the Muslims are going to come over here and make us start wearing burqas is goofy. And if these people 50 years from now are still wearing burqas, living in this country, so what? There's nothing more ridiculous than clothing. I'm wearing clothing right now. If somebody wants to wear different clothing than what I'm wearing, that's no goofier than people wanting to wear what I'm wearing. Okay, I'm going off again. Oh, thank goodness. Al Toledo's here to straighten me out. In my opinion, the light panels are full spectrum and not simply red. The disorder happens because people in the northern parts have less daylight during the winter. Artificial lights don't act as a replacement. Okay, I think I've heard that too. There's something, it's like the infrared band and the ultraviolet band. And here's the thing we were talking about at the very beginning of this. Carlos said, go get in a tanning bed. I had another friend that say you can do it with some lizard lights because he had an aquarium with a lizard in it and they had to have special lights that cost a lot of money. And I don't know that any of that is what they actually use, but it probably all would be beneficial. But I think there is a very specific kind of neon light, puts out a very unique spectrum of light. Probably has the reds and blues and all of that in there, but it's the amount that you need. And so it may not be a red light. Let's go up here and see. Kratom is so nasty. I actually liked it. The taste, it didn't bother me. I put it in with warm tea, stirred it up pretty good. I could keep it kind of mixed in. The lights need to be red. That's from Angela. Much more invasive. America needs to leave other countries alone. There you go. Well, every country needs to leave other countries alone. We were in our discussion today on Skype, and if any of y'all want to, honestly, it's Henry Thoreau is my Skype name. You can send me a message if you forget it. and I'll hook you up. We were talking today about how the victor goes the spoils. Well, that's to the victors goes the story. Whoever wins the war gets to tell the story. And so obviously America is the good guys and everybody else is the bad guys because we've always won the wars. Well, before that, it was the British that always won the war. So they were the good guys. Before that, it was the Romans. Before that, it was the Greeks. Before that, it was the Phoenicians. Before that, it was we've had the Persians, the Babylonians, the Egyptians, the Assyrians. And if you go back and look, once those cultures that were the good guys finally get defeated, guess what? We go back and look at what actually happened and find out they're all bad guys. And very soon, America's going to collapse and everybody's going to go, wait a second, America wasn't the good guys. They were the bad guys, because to the victor go the spoils, to the victor go the right to the story. So you get to tell, once you kill everybody, you get to say what you want and everybody has to go along with it. And there's a lot of people alive today who have seen the story, how it actually took place. And they have seen that it's not the same as the story that's taught in school or in the networks. All right, let's see here. Yeah, the Muslim problem, the border problem is a scam. Nothing but nonsense to distract you away from loving God and your neighbor. And that is the truth. And I'll have anyone else to say anything else. Here's a deal. Civilization can only work if everybody, or at least the majority, reaps the benefits. And so occasionally you put all of these, you build basically slave labor camps everywhere. That's what factories, shopping malls, road crews. These people are working. They're making enough money to have food and shelter and keep their families somewhat happy. And as long as you can keep a majority in that situation, things are cool. Well, occasionally there will be big glitches in the system that cause the amount of resources necessary for that to disappear. And you have things like the Great Depression. The Great Depression wasn't much different than what we live under today. It's just that the percentage, whatever that break point is, went from 50% happy to 49% happy, because that many people lost their jobs. And so now the Satan's chosen rulers have to scurry to find some kind of a way of patching the system. The way Roosevelt patched the system was to simply make a whole bunch of nonsense busy work. They created the national parks and all that from people going out and cutting down trees, and people were building hydroelectric dams. And yeah, there are benefits to that, but the benefits were almost insignificant when compared to the damage that was done. Hoover Dam produces a lot of electricity to this day, but I'm sure thousands of species of fish and plants went extinct from that. A lot of people worked. It submerged a whole bunch of land. It's not a win-win situation. And a lot of these other, the CCCP or CCC camps, nothing they did actually was all that beneficial. It was just busy work. So the government could give them a check. Instead of just saying, we're going to give you a check for staying home and watching TV, they gave them a check for making dams. Well, that's what's going on now. Our resources have almost run out. We're having to get, we get our cars from overseas, our clothes from overseas. And it's not because the rich people that rule the world have figured out that slave labor is more profitable than, American labor, where you have to pay a minimum wage. It's because there's nothing to make clothing out of in this country. There's very little metal left, very little petroleum left, very little coal left. It takes an incredible amount of destruction to get our last little bit of resources. So we get our resources from other countries. And so when you're in a situation like that, the only way to save people is to either give everybody a free check for sitting in front of their TV, or give them busy work. And so the wall is busy work. It's not any different than what Roosevelt did right before World War II, and we're about to start World War III. Thank you, Ala Toledo. I didn't know he still had the power, but he's blocking comments. That's cool. We'll discuss this at a later time. All right, let's see here. Ernest knows a sales tax, Carlos, would prevent the con of the politicians because illegals, to eat. Oh, well, that's probably, I don't really know. It's political. Since political is like arguing over Democrats and Republicans. It's kind of like arguing over whether the tooth fairy is nicer than Santa Claus. That's not. You can get wrapped up in arguments over a whole lot of stuff that no one can prove and no one really knows. We watch the networks. We see all this stuff about what our tax dollars do and what it doesn't do. We see all the stuff about what the Muslims are going to do if they can sneak out of Mexico. And if the story sounds really silly, it probably is really silly, and it really does kind of sound silly. I don't buy in when they tell me what Mexicans are doing to our country or what Muslims are doing to our country. I look around me and I look at what Mexicans are doing and Muslims are doing. It doesn't seem to, what I see with my eyes doesn't match what I'm told to see with my eyes. Half of Tennessee was built New Deal. Well, guess what? The whole Mexican American border is about to be built by the New Deal. Years from now, there'll be like tourist attractions. People will be going down there to look at that thing, and they'll have, artists will go paint it, and they'll put up water parks and stuff. We'll all go, wow, man, that guy Trump he knew what he was doing. This wall is cool. And hey, look, here's the thing. If you look at the laws as they're written, they're never what they appear to be. But this politician is evil. Yes, he is. Just like the last politician was evil, and just like the one before that. And I think they've had 44 of them, and they're all evil. But as he's writing his law, he doesn't just say, let's build a wall and kill everybody on the other side of the wall. He says, let's build a wall, put medical facilities every so often to take care of these people when they get here. That's actually a good idea. I don't see him ever actually doing that, but that would be busy work, and it would be beneficial because these people, by the time they get to the American border, they're usually close to death. There's no water out there. Most of them can't carry enough food. It gets really cold at night. So yeah, this wall thing may not be as bad as it's made out to be. The whole thing is they say they just want them to come in legally. Well, currently, there is no way for them to come in legally. The only way you can get into this country legally is to be really rich and pay off a bunch of crooked American judges. There's not very many crop pickers that can do that. So if they put the wall up and the Americans want their crops picked, they're going to have to come up with some kind of system that does not require these poor crop pickers to pay a bunch of crooked American judges. So that's how that works. Perhaps these people who are coming over here now and picking our crops will be able to continue coming over and picking our crops. And if they force these people to get paid minimum wage, this could actually be a good thing for them. Because laws, like I say, written laws never match reality. Never. Yeah. Well, I said that that these CCC programs were, cutting down trees, and a lot of it was nice. They went in and cut down sick trees, but a lot of it was nonsense. There's a man down the road. He's dead now. He's been dead for about 20 years, but his family had a huge tract of land. And so one of these government programs was to harvest trees for the war effort. So this was like in 1939, 1940, 1941. And this man said, no, you're not harvesting my tree. He lived in the forest. He had a cabin. He had a beautiful place. And he took every legal means available to him to stop these people from coming on his property and cutting down his trees. And when it was over, they left him in a virtual desert. Every tree that they could get any amount of wood out was cut down. It was cut into lumber for the war effort. It was taken to these huge storage facilities. It was stacked up, and somewhere around 1948, 49, they took it all out somewhere and burned it. Took it to a landfill and burned it. So his entire forest was cut down, cut into squares, dried, and then burned for no reason. If they needed the wood, I don't know. I'm not even going to get into that. There's no solution. Human beings do not have a solution that will work. If you get in there and you start trying to petition Congress or voting or armed rebellion, any of that, you're trying to do the work of God. God promises to destroy everyone who's ruining the earth. That it doesn't say God will give us permission to destroy everyone ruining the earth. It says God has given permission to, or God is going to destroy the earth person, or those who are destroying the earth personally. We can't do it. Wow, Trish Blair's here. This is a big shout out from Australia land, or actually they call it Aussie land, I think. Down there, that's called the Down Under, or the Up and Over, or something like that. Okay, climb the wall challenge. Yeah, I was telling Al Toledo if he ever gets back over here, I'll lend him a ladder so he can get back home. I didn't actually tell him that. But I will say this. If you see a wall going up, and you're thinking about getting out of the country, you better get out before the wall is completed, because that was one of the warnings that was given to the nation of Israel. When Jesus was asked, this is in Matthew chapter 24, his apostles were saying, what is going to be a sign of your return or your presence and the conclusion of this system? Jesus said, well, they're going to be talking about earthquakes and war and famine. Just ignore that. That kind of junk has been going on since the beginning of time. Wars and famines and earthquakes are not a sign of the end of the world. However, whenever they start to build walls around Jerusalem with pointed stakes, get out. And whether or not this ever actually happened or how it happened, apparently the Roman army came in and they deforested the whole land, and they started putting points on those ends of those trees and driving them into the ground. Once they had a wall built all the way around Jerusalem, they went in there and killed everybody. Well, the people who heard Jesus say that saw these guys driving trees in the ground. And they're like, this looks like something Jesus said. And so they left. And they survived. Supposedly, this may be all fake story. I don't know, because the actual fulfillment of that prophecy may also have been something to do with celestial phenomenon, and the Roman army coming in and driving stakes in the ground may not have meant anything, because in a similar story in the book of Luke, it says, whenever you see the disgusting thing that causes destruction, get out. So Jesus tells a story that's recorded in Matthew. And he tells a story that sounds exactly the same as recorded in Luke. And the only real difference, the only thing that's really different, is that one, he says that when you see him driving pointed stakes in the ground, get out. And the other one, he says, when you see the disgusting thing that causes destruction, get out. Well, the disgusting thing that causes destruction is spoken of in other verses. And seemingly, once again, it goes back to constellation crux. When the solar system rights itself, crux will be over the equator again, meaning that everyone on Earth will be able to see it. So when you see the disgusting thing where it does not belong, then get out. That's when you see constellation crux, the cross, the disgusting thing, the crucifix of the churches, the Ankh, the Tammuz. You see that over the equator, get out. How we're going to get out, I don't know, but I'll keep you informed. When I find out, I'll let you know. I wouldn't want to take our king's fun away from him. Yeah, I don't call him the king. Well, sometimes I call him the king of the empire. Sometimes I just call him one of the most significant politicians of our time. The politicians are always doing bad things, and he's one of the big ones. If you're the king of France or Germany, that's a big deal, but the president of the United States is the one that tells you what to do if you're one of those kings. So he's the main guy right now. Used to be the Pope when it was the Roman Empire, but as American Empire, Pope's not as powerful. To keep people in. Yeah, the wall is 100% to keep people in. Yeah, when they put that thing up, get out. I thought you meant Christ's return. Get you cool. Not the wall. Well, okay, I don't see anybody. Yeah, hit the thumbs up, folks. Pennies for our host. And that I think that's kind of true. You know, I really didn't want to do this. Here's one of the reasons I don't like doing this. It's like I know that what I'm saying is significant for 7 billion people. Okay. I would love to show you what 7 billion looks like, but that's a lot. And so every week we have 100 people that watch this video. And I'm like, how in the world? You know, I'm not like arrogant or anything, but there should be 7 billion people watching these live streams. And I got 100 people watching. At the end of the week, there'll be maybe 500 people will see this. But I suspect that 100 people are going to watch this 5 times. And so, you know, I don't know if you hit the little bell icon at the top of the page, they'll supposedly send you an announcement every time that this happens. If you hit the thumbs up, you get something. I think there's other things you can do. You can go down, there's a subscribe button. You can subscribe. If you could do all of those things, it probably will help the channel, but I suspect that YouTube may be throttling me. Because a while back, I made a video about identifying who Melchizedek is. I use nothing but scriptures. And for the first time in 6,000 years, mankind was told accurately who Melchizedek is. That's significant. It should have been at least 1 million people watching. And I think 1,000, I may have gotten 1,000 views. And if you go to that video, over in the right-hand side, you'll see icons for 100 other videos about identifying Melchizedek. And it's always suit-wearing preachers saying a lot of hallelujahs and amens and Jesus. And they've got millions of views. So there's a lot of people looking to find out who Melchizedek is. And YouTube is not sending them to me. And so I'm like, okay, I'm at a war with YouTube. They win. But at the same time, it may just be that when people see identifying Melchizedek and a picture of an old man with long, scraggly hair, they're just not interested. So I'm not going to give up on YouTube, but just know that this year is going to be the year that I fix my house and get my car right, get my lawn equipment right, and get my lawn fixed, and along with everything else that's broke around here. And so that takes precedence for right now. You know, maybe in a year, when I'm ready to get serious again, we'll be closer to the end time. Maybe the sun and earth and moon will go back into conjunction. When that happens, I don't care about my house anymore. I'll start making really good videos really quick. All right. Raw says, my channel is shadow banned. I did a whole video and did a search. It didn't come up. Yeah, you know, that's kind of weird. I go on there, I make a video, and I'll call it the longest nose hair in the world and post it. Nobody else is making that video. And I could go on and search longest nose hair, and my video will never come up. You would think that something like that would and I'm not, I mean, that's a made up story, but I have gone looking for my videos, and I had to ask other people who had saved them where they were because I couldn't find them. All right, well, let's we'll call this one. This has been 1 hour and 3 minutes. I love y'all. Do all them things that I recommended about subscribe and click the little bell icon and click the thumbs up and all that stuff. And hope to see y'all soon. Maybe not next week, maybe not the week after that, but I'm not going to just disappear. I've got to work on my lawn, but I'll check in from time to time. Love y'all. As always, if you do not wish to survive, don't listen to